Now then, Officer Marshall, are you ready to tell us the truth?
Looks like I underestimated y'all. I hope you're happy now, Mr. Edgeworth. 2 years ago, if you were only half as persistent then as you are today, we all wouldn't have to be here now. Now would we?
Officer Marshall, tell the court what you did. All of it.
All right. It seems the time has come. I had to do it that day. I couldn't just stand by and let it die. I stole the detective's ID and dressed like him. I planned to take out the evidence. I wasn't expecting Officer Meekins. I knocked him out and managed to escape. I knew which areas wouldn't be caught on the camera. There wasn't any murder in the evidence room at 5:15.
So the supposed victim was really you.
But there's one thing I still don't understand. Traces of a large quantity of blood were found on the floor of the evidence room. If no one was murdered, then how could that be? Officer Meekins managed to cut off his own hand.
He cut it off!
Completely. Well, maybe not. But my guess is he's the donor.
It was way too much blood for such a small donation.
Yeah, he must have actually cut his whole hand.
That's what I thought.
When you say it, you mean
Do you even have to ask, partner?
the SL9 incident.
2 years have passed since that case was closed. It was going to completely end with the transferal that day. Not if I had anything to do with it. That incident's not over.
But what did you hope to accomplish by sneaking into the evidence room?
When a case is closed, only that case's lead detective can look through the evidence. I wanted to have a look at it myself one more time. No matter what the cost. I don't care what anyone says, partner. That case is mine.
Officer Marshall wasn't in charge of that investigation. Why does he care so much about it?
That day was my last chance. That's why
Why did you disguise yourself as Detective Goodman?
if I didn't make it look like Goodman was carrying out the evidence transfer, I'd be arrested for stealing evidence, which wouldn't get me anywhere. So you did it to fool the security camera.
And the detective's ID card.
I stole that the morning of the incident.
So that really was why Goodman started filling out the lost item report.
I returned his ID card. I left it on the floor in the prosecutor's office parking lot.
The ID card was found. Was left there by Officer Marshall.
So, essentially, you managed to succeed despite your lack of foresight. What do you mean, partner? I mean the fingerprint-activated lock, of course. No matter how well you disguise yourself, you can't change your fingerprints. Under normal circumstances, you wouldn't have been able to open that locker yourself.
But he could because a rubber glove just happened to get stuck in that door. That means Detective Goodman must have opened the locker before Officer Marshall. You pulled a knife on Officer Meekins and tried to drive him off.
Let's just say I was a little surprised. I only planned on being in the evidence room for no more than 5 minutes. I didn't think anyone would actually come in during that short time.
Officer Meekins certainly is a one-of-a-million type person. Mistaking a detective for an intruder and demanding to be shown his ID.
I'll have to think a little more about his raise this year.
How did Edgeworth get so much influence?
Anyway, he threw himself at me and I ended up cutting him slightly. Or maybe his whole hand fell off, I'm not sure. I'm sorry it had to turn out that way.
They just sewed his dead hand onto his arm.
With me knocking him out and everything.
Wrapped it up.
By the way, what happened to your knife?
Oh, you mean this one?
I don't know what to say.
So you knocked out Officer Meekins and...
So you did your research beforehand?
Those who go into the desert unprepared don't live long, partner. I didn't think it would make a difference, though. The security tape is erased every 6 hours. If all had gone as planned, no footage would have been left. However, you bloodied your coat in your struggle with Officer Meekins. If someone was in the security room when I came out, the jig would have been up. I opened my locker and stashed it in there.
What was Officer Meekins doing during that time?
What else? He was sleeping like a baby.
So what you're saying is, on that day...
There wasn't any murder in the evidence room at 5:15.
But the blood found at the scene certainly indicates a crime took place.
What are you, blind? The victim shown on that tape is me, and I'm not dead yet, partner. So, you stole the evidence from the locker. Actually, no, I didn't. Why not? When I opened the locker, the evidence was already gone.
What? Mr. Edgeworth, where is that evidence?
It's still missing, Your Honor.
I thought I have the... What's going on?
You just have some of the evidence.
You just have the case files.
All the evidence, other evidence from that incident was found with his body.
Detective Goodman's locker was already empty. Someone else stole the evidence. Officer Marshall, may I ask you one thing?
Fire away, partner. It's a free country. Just remember, I'm also free to decide whether or not to answer.
Why did you do this? Stealing a detective's ID during injuring a police officer. This is no small offense.
Moreover, you're an officer yourself. This will have serious consequences. It can't just be forgiven with a simple cut in salary.
Not that salary cuts are ever a valid solution.
Like I said, this isn't your case. This one's mine. And I'll do anything to get an answer I'm satisfied with.
The witness has an unusual amount of zeal. Let's hear more.
I can't just forget the SL9 incident. You know why?
But the case was solved 2 years ago, wasn't it?
That's the reason the evidence was stored in the evidence room.
Joe Dark was convicted for his crimes. One thing I can say for sure is he deserved his sentence.
I remember the Joe Dark case. It involved serial murders, didn't it?
I don't intend to complain about how it turned out, but there is something that still bothers me. Something went down at that trial. Something no one will talk about.
What happened?
I don't know. That's what I'm trying to find out.
Why is he so concerned with that incident? Maybe I should present him with something that I think his real reason is. I had a feeling we'd wind up here sooner or later. Everyone involved here is related to, in some way, to that case. I'd better take another look at the files.
Probably his dad or brother or uncle or something. Who had the last name Marshall.
Why does he say the locker's empty if there's a glove on it?
Did he know the glove fell?
He'd be pretty unobservant as a detective. He didn't even notice the glove.
Well, he said the locker was empty when he looked inside it. By the time he looked inside it, it was empty because it fell out when he opened the door.
Yeah, but why didn't you look?
He didn't care about the glove.
Maybe you're being too picky.
Which page was it?
Neil Marshall. Page 2.
Page 2, victims. Officer Marshall, I think I understand. I think I know why you care so much about the SL9 incident.
Sounds like you've been sipping too much cactus juice, partner. Hope you didn't get your fingers cut.
I have the SL9 incident file here. The name Marshall is mentioned here. In a list of murder victims. Neil Marshall, are you related to this man?
Neil Marshall. Yeah, I'm sure you've heard the name. 2 years ago, he received the same lousy prosecutor award you got.
What? A prosecutor?
You must be talking about the King of Prosecutors Award.
Now I remember. Prosecutor Neil Marshall. He handled the SL9 case before I did. That's right. He was killed. And the case file fell into your hands.
But what's his relation to you?
He was my brother.
But he has long hair.
You only just now found that out?
Yeah. I thought that was part of his hat. All this time.
He was investigating the murders with Damon Gant, the then Deputy Chief of Police.
Nah, that's Edgeworth in the bottom left.
The group of detectives I was part of worked under them. We were desperate to prosecute the killer. Joe Dark. My brother fought Dark and was killed. That was the first time Dark left behind any evidence. That was all we needed. He was arraigned and incarcerated. The case was finally closed. At least, according to public records.
What do you mean?
My brother couldn't have been killed by Joe Dark. I knew my brother better than anyone. No one could have beaten him in a fight. And that's it? That's your reason for your insane actions? There's more to my brother's death than what the records say. No matter how much you try to hide it, you can't fool me.
Well, at least one thing's for certain. Now we know what happened at the police department on the day of the crime.
That was the last day the S.L. Nang case could be reopened. Not satisfied with its resolution, Officer Marshall planned to steal the evidence.
Disguising himself as Detective Goodman, he entered the evidence room. Officer Meekins confronted him, so he rendered him unconscious and fled.
Yes, this mystery has finally been cleared up. No murder took place at the police department that day. The things that happen by chance never cease to amaze. At exactly the same time as the murder at the prosecutor's office, this fake murder was going on at the police department.
Chance? It's got to be more than just that.
So, if no one was murdered at the police department on the day of the crime, that means the murder in the prosecutor's office parking lot was the real one.
Which, in turn, means only one person could have committed the crime. Chief Prosecutor Lana Skye.
But wait! A verdict wasn't reached in yesterday's trial.
Which is why we examined the incident at the police department today.
But...
There's only one reason the defendant was not convicted yesterday. There yet remained the mystery of the simultaneous murder at the police department. It seemed to me this boy's got a draw on you, partner.
Yeehaw!
Oh, yuck!
They got all that off his chest.
Gosh. All of the mysteries of the police department have been resolved, no doubt about it. Our sole murder took place at the prosecutor's office. The only suspect is Lana Skye. And the testimony of Ms. Angel Starr is completely incontestable. If you have a response, make it a single word or less. That sounded like Vargoth. I rest my case.
Seems this trial has reached its conclusion. There's no room for doubt.
Well done, Mr. Wright. Thanks to you, I didn't need to waste my time disproving this alleged murder at the police department.
There's no doubt what I proved today is true. The apparent murder on the security camera's tape really was fake. But I didn't realize that would end up proving Lana's guilt.
Now then, it's time for the verdict to have arrived. You're on! Wait!
Emma!
The defense has an objection. A scientific objection. Right?
What do you mean, Wright?
Mr. Wright. Are you this girl's guardian?
Your Honor, in a sense.
Please, Jan. All I'm asking for is a minute of your time. Please hear me out. Mr. Edgeworth, please.
I don't want to leave any loose ends. You want a minute? I'll give you 3.
Oh, I was kind of in shock. I mean, finding out that the SL9 incident referred to the Jordan killings.
Now that she mentions it, the names of both Sky Sisters were in that file.
But that's when I figured it out. I mean, Officer Marshall was trying to do it that day. So I knew his fingerprint had nothing to do with the crime. And that left only one thing, the other handprint.
You mean the traces of blood found on Detective Gumshoe's locker?
But no fingerprints were found on it, right? No, but I figured if I examined it scientifically, I'd be sure to find a clue. So I went over there and looked it again.
So you did find something?
No.
Huh?
Sorry, I guess I'm not much of a scientific investigator after all.
Is that all?
Please don't be mad, I'm just a high school student.
And I'm just an attorney.
But Mr. Wright, those are traces of our blood on the nuclear. If we could find something wrong with them, please, Mr. Wright, you're a professional. If anyone can save London, it's you.
Me? Oh boy!
Time's up. Now then, Mr. Wright. With regard to the incident at the police department, does any reasonable doubt remain?
It appears the defense is troubled by the other blood mark. Looking at the floor pans, a handprint was discovered around here. Is there a problem with this?
Mr. Wright, I'm sorry if I can't be more of help of use. But still, if you can't find anything wrong with the blood mark, Lana will be. Please answer my question, Mr. Wright. Don't have all day. I'm hungry.
Yes, Your Honor. If ever I've needed to concentrate, it's now. What could be wrong with the handprint on Detective Gumshoe's locker? Could there be something I'm missing?
Now you're becoming a true Ace Attorney player. Saving before every decision.
Should I use the video?
I think you just have to eject.
This handprint left at the crime scene clearly shows a contradiction!
The only thing that seems clear is your grasping, Mr. Wright.
You've been staring pretty intently at those floor plans. Tell me, is there a problem with them?
Yes, this is strange. Take a look at these floor plans. Something is missing.
Missing? You mean something hasn't been drawn on there?
Yes, something that, when drawn, will completely change the meaning of that blood mark.
Let us pray that the defense isn't simply trying to buy time. Okay, Mr. Wright.
All this evidence here. There's got to be something I can use.
Question is, which item can prove something is missing in these floor plans? The blue badger. Usually they're not drawn. Where did we get here? What the heck happened?
What about that piece of plywood?
Is he supposed to be standing next to Emma?
Yeah.
The Blue Badger! The mascot of the police force! Greatest hero of us all! Defender of truth! Guardian of proof!
Explain yourself, Mr. Wright.
Please look at the floor plans of the crime scene. Blue Badger is not here.
So?
So watch what happens when you put him in. This is where he was dancing at the time of the crime. Well?
Well, what?
That's right. So long as the Blue Badger is dancing here, it would be impossible to place a handprint at this spot on the locker.
Not if he was like tripping.
Not if he like in between the Blue Badger.
He could have been so shocked from what just happened that he like tripped and then put his hand on the locker, leaning over it, and then he got up.
And somehow magically managed not to get blood on the Blue Badger.
Yeah. So that means, what exactly does that mean?
It means it can't be done.
What are you saying? Blood traces were undeniably found on that locker?
Don't look at me. I did.
Mr. Wright, think it through scientifically.
Emma.
On that afternoon, Officer Meekins was the one who brought the Blue Badger into the evidence room, right? After you put it down, it would be impossible to leave a handprint on the locker.
So that must mean this blood mark was left before the Blue Badger was brought in.
Just one moment. I will not allow such far-fetched balderdash in my courtroom.
It may sound far-fetched, Your Honor. That's the only possible explanation. On February 21st, in the police department's evidence room, blood was spilled not once but twice.
But how?
One time was captured on this tape taken by the security camera. Officer Meekins cut his hand, from which a trivial amount of blood fell. The problem is, the other time, someone bled prior to the struggle shown on this tape. It had to have been. It had to have been Detective Goodman when he was really murdered.
That's ridiculous. I refuse to accept your absurd claim.
The murder portrayed in the security tape have been proven to be fake. However, that doesn't explain the blood mark found on the locker.
So then, assuming this murder you purport really happened, when did it take place? I demand that you show evidence that proves when it occurred.
When did this first occur? First incident
To
occur?
summarize, the defense claims that prior to Officer Meekins being cut by Jake Marshall, who was posing as Detective Goodman, another incident took place in that evidence room.
That's right. The bloody The blood mark on the locker proves this.
The bloody blood mark.
Very well. Then tell us. When did this first incident occur, as Mr. Edgeworth said?
Proof that shows when the murder took place. There's only one piece of evidence that to show that.
Now then, will the defense please present its evidence that shows when the first crime took place?
If the crime took place inside the evidence room, then the killer would have had to enter. And in order to do so, an ID card would have been required.
ID card. Oh, the ID card record. Officer? No.
Officer Meekins brought the Blue Badger panel into the evidence room at,
let's see here, 4:50 p.m. If crime took place before that time, it would be 4:40 p.m. Ah!
or 4:20. Still one more.
Miles Edgeworth! Just what have you done?
I never would have figured you had the nerve, boy. Drop the act, witness. It doesn't take a lot of thought to figure it couldn't have been me. Nope, I ain't getting it.
I'm afraid I don't understand either.
It's clear from the luminol test that blood was there. However, when the second crime took place, both Officer Meekins and Officer Marshall failed to notice the blood.
That means the blood from the first crime was wiped away by the real murderer.
It would have been just... I would have had just 10 minutes to murder the victim, carry his body away, and clean up the blood. Unfortunately, that's physically impossible.
That would mean the crime must have taken place before Mr. Edgeworth entered the evidence room.
Let's tour to the chart again. There's only one other card remaining, number 77777777.
Talk about a lucky number.
But wait, that doesn't make sense. How could Detective Goodman have entered the evidence room?
Since there's no record of his card being used beforehand, he must have entered along with the real killer. That's the only plausible explanation. He went in with 77777777.
Mr. Edgeworth, please look into this ASAP. Find out whose ID number is 7777777.
That's 1 7 too many, Your Honor. Unfortunately, I'm unable to look up the owner of that ID card. At least, at present.
What?
Gosh, explain yourself, son. The ID number 777777 belongs to someone with the rank of captain or higher. Someone who is a so-called executive officer. We don't have the authority to inquire into such a person's identity.
But that's ridiculous! Just how?
I'm not finished talking, Mr. Wright. There is one situation in which we can be granted such authority.
if an official charge filed against an executive is accepted.
An official charge?
You're all alike, aren't you? With your cover-ups and your forgeries. That's how the prosecutor's office operates.
So what's his real voice? Is it the beach voice or is it Goofy?
All of them. I take pride in my work, Officer Marshall. I would appreciate it if you would keep your slander to yourself. Slander, is it? Okay. Let me ask a question. Yes. No, not to you, to her, dude. This defendant sitting over there. Your own little executive.
He's having the metal breakdown a lot and then you get him out of there.
Don't be stupid. She's been charged with murder. Of course, we've looked up her ID number, and it's not 777 7777. Don't play me for a fool, partner. That's not what I want to ask. All I want to know is one thing about that incident.
The SL9 incident.
Answer me this, Chief Prosecutor. In that trial 2 years ago, did you really only use legitimate evidence?
How many stands do they have?
Just one, but they take turns standing at it. You need the witness to repeat his question, Chief Prosecutor. I heard him fine, Mr. Edgeworth.
The weirdest group of people.
2 years ago, I was in charge of the prosecution for that trial. It's no wonder it took them forever to find the killer. Occasionally, we felt the powerlessness of the law. At least, I did.
No, no!
I became a prosecutor in order to suppress the crime with the law. But before I realized it, we were the ones being suppressed by the law.
Defendant, just what are you saying?
I'll ask you again, Chief Prosecutor. During that trial 2 years ago, did you really present all the evidence in court? Can you look me, an investigator in that crime, in the eye and say you did?
Chief Prosecutor, you did it.
I don't have to, Officer Marshall. Why won't you answer him? Drastic crimes require drastic measures. That's just the way it is. We did what we had to, in order for him to get the verdict he deserved.
But Talana!
Even if it involved forging evidence. See? That's what I'm talking about. No. No!
Uda, 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 Uda! The chaos in the courtroom cannot be quelled. The conclusion of this trial would have to wait until the following day.
That was Chief
To be continued.
The judge is narrating.
Well, usually Phoenix is the narrator. But I guess not that time.
You should probably save over that one.
This one.
Yeah.
Are we continuing or?
We will be continuing.
Next time on Ace Attorney!
Thank you, Your Honor.